It's a little delayed, but we finally made it.
Yeah, almost exactly half an hour late. Sorry, that's all my fault. No, I'll tell you the truth. I lost my phone, so I couldn't connect my headphones. So I was technical difficulties. I've been crawling over the house. It was underneath a chair, by the way, just so you know. I was in there
Oh,
hanging up
that
some
and
tapestries.
confusing Eastern with Central.
Mhm.
A
Oh
little
yeah, that's why I
combat.
wasn't prepared at all. Yeah, it was the time zone
But
difference. But yeah,
welcome.
but since
If you
then
don't
the
know
good.
who she is, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Bre. I have a channel called Hive Science where I debunk bad science and also explore some good science from time to time. So, if you like that sort of thing, come on over to the Hive. Maybe consider joining the Hive and subscribing. We are very, very close to hitting our first 1,000 subscribers. So, I'm excited about that. Hello, Regios and Dr. Tapioca Weasel, by the way. It's good to see my friends popping into the side chat here. Sorry if my tardiness has ruined the evening for you, but I'm glad to see some people out there to hear us talk about what's the topic today.
It is. I can't
Mm.
pronounce it, but carcinization. I
You
think.
said it just fine. Carcinization to become crab. Am I right? That's what we're gonna
Yeah.
do. We're gonna become crab tonight.
So, so why is everything becoming crabs?
Um, why become crab? That's a good question. So let me see if I can't fix my camera. I'm really freaking blurry too. I will be right back. I'm gonna go off camera for just a second here. So to minimize the resources necessary uh, to support an organism with a minimum amount of space, right? So as long as they have the legs to move around and the claws for as a feeding apparatus in the front, uh, yeah, that's optimal. You see that with a lot of organisms, not just decapods, but it's especially prevalent in decapods, um, which includes both the uh, what's the term I'm looking for here? Sorry, I'm losing my trying to adjust my camera here so I can come back on so you can see me. So you have Anomura, which are the porcelain crabs. They are decapod crustaceans. Um, then you have the hairy crabs, like the Yeti crabs. They are also subject to carcinization, and it's taking on these features with a small round body and a bear
So
with me
you
just a
mentioned.
second.
I
I'm
think you
sorry.
mentioned
This
this earlier
technical issues galore, right?
on your channel, but some of these crabs aren't really crabs.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how you define crab. Crab's kind of one of those terms, like I don't know, like for instance, like monkey, right? That maybe maybe isn't as informative as it sounds and on face value, because it's polyphyletic, right? It excludes a certain, yeah, like fish. There's another great example.
So
Fish is
crab
a
itself is its own clade. Then
yeah, crab is applied to because what we call crabs, and what we assumed were crabs for a long, long time, and when they were defined by fisheries and such, we've come to find out are classed in two separate groups, right? So
right.
you have your Brachyurna and your Anomura. So those are two
So when
different,
we start usually looking at DNA and not just
yeah, not just
surface features.
that they're shaped this way and have pinchy parts, right? You got to look beyond that. There's more to it than that. So what we call true crabs are the Brachyurna. Uh, they're completely carcinized. They're to the point where their rear legs actually stick out backwards. They're so carcinized. they tend to have a sideward locomotion, but they also get pretty dang big. The biggest ones are the Japanese spider crabs, which I'm sure you've seen at some point in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, at least in photos. I've seen some in different aquariums and stuff, and they are essentially human-sized crabs. They're really skinny and alien looking, but they're human-sized crabs. Uh, the Japanese spider crabs are the biggest among them, and then there's tiny little ones too. Like you see them, like just the same size as they fill in the same niche as the is insects in this semi-aquatic environment. But they all have one thing in common, and that's carcinization.
Now, is carcinization only happening on the protostome side, not our deuterostome side?
Well, you could make a case that like a turtle's body plan is a tetrapod attempt at carcinization. But that'd probably be about the closest you'd get is outside of deuterostomes. You really don't get too much carcinization outside of I can't think of any true carcinization outside of arthropods, and it's really outside of crustaceans that it's questionable where there's something would count as carcinization, right? So you consider something like an amelie pigeon, which are arachnids, but they have a lot in common with crabs and do have some degree of carcinization in their physiology. Another organism that's outside of the crabs or Pancrustacea is the pseudoscorpions, and they're an arachnid as well. And they are basically look visually at least like a scorpion without a tail. So, but their rear portion is still segmented. This is also what keeps the Inourna from being considered true crabs as well, because they have their rear or their abdomen is still segmented, at least in most species, right? Like you look at a hermit crab, for instance, when you pull it out of its shell, or when it climbs out of its shell, there's a big juicy bit that's all segmented. It's not completely carcinized. But it's got all the organs and everything in there.
Hermit crabs are kind of cool. I saw this video about them where apparently they line up. Some of them line up in like a parade to get new shells.
Yeah, they'll do a little trade-off system. Like when one of them's getting ready to molt and meet a bigger shell, they'll climb out of their old shell and molt, and then the next one will be in line to check out the shell and see if it wants to move in, and they just keep moving on down the line. But yeah, the hermit crabs that you really can really identify carcinization with are the ones that become huge, the coconut crabs, right? They are much like the spider crabs that we talked about with the true crabs under the sea. They're a giant false crabs, I suppose you would call them. I don't know if you'd call them that. They're usually listed as Anomura, hermit crabs, and others, but they have closer ancestry to other decapods that don't have necessarily the crabby bodies, including something called squat lobsters. But
yeah,
when it comes to
sorry, I think you mentioned that on your live show earlier, that like crabs go through a lobster phase in the
embryological in their embryological development. I think I actually had a picture of that pulled up.
I was going to say in the womb, but I mean they don't have a womb.
Yeah, in the egg, I guess would be the best way to describe it during their eggy phase. Let me see here. I had that pulled up. Just a moment. It was like carcinization. I guess a pretty cool picture.
If anybody's interested, I got 2 links down below about some papers about carcinization you would read.
Yeah. Yeah, I got some stuff I can read here too. I don't know how to use this system though, so bear with me. No, it
Down here,
looks pretty straightforward.
This third button, screen sharing.
Yeah, here's some fun. The crab was inevitable. Soon they shall rule the earth. I love become crab memes. Every now and then the internet discovers something you just sort of assume everyone knew. And that's not all the nerds knew that that carcinization was a thing. Like the fact that pufferfish inflate themselves in water and not in air. It seems logical that people would assume that fish, which famously remain underwater, when they are not dead, fill up with water, but when they are fill up with water when they inflate themselves. But apparently, vast swaths of the internet learned this information on pufferfish from underwater levels in Super Mario. But this latest discovery is one that's a little more niche and a lot more interesting. Today's topic on the internet discussion is carcinization, or how everything in nature, well, just crustaceans, thankfully, seems to want to be a crab. Crustaceans have evolved into the shape of a crab at least 5 independent times. I do not like. Somebody said they didn't like it, and you don't get to like or dislike it. It's just it's a preferred form. It's a favorable shape. I think that you could make an argument that what would you call it? What would you call taking the shape like of a true bug, like hemopterization, hemopterization, where you like what you see cockroaches do. I don't know, just a thought.
And
yep, like tech bros repeatedly trying to invent a new type of transport and accidentally reinventing the bus. Evolution seems to keep spitting out animals that look like crabs. First coined as a term in 1916, so this has been around for a while. Carcinization was originally defined as one of the many attempts of nature to evolve a crab. Convergent evolution is when similar features evolve in a species from different periods or regions that have similar forms or functions despite the last common ancestor of the animal or plant not having that particular feature. That is the difference between a homologous feature and an analogous feature. Homologies are ones that you share as holdover from a common ancestor, whereas analogous features are features that you evolved independently from a common ancestor that did not have that feature. That does not mean the common ancestor could not have had prerequisite features to the feature that you both share in common, but they cannot perform the same function that they do at their current evolution state that we're examining. Convergent evolution is when similar, we just read that.
So
think how echolocation evolved both, like bats and whales. There's a good example. Or flight evolving.
So are lobsters crabs that decide to give up halfway through?
Well, lobsters, you could almost call it neoteny in a way, but I don't know if honestly from my position right now, I'm not sure if the basal state is actually the crab or the lobster. I think it would be the lobster. I think the ancestors would be more lobster-like than crab-like, based on my understanding of how early arthropods evolved. I would say the one with more segments is probably ancestral to the one with less segments, and that the original organism had it is ganglia divided into this segmentation at the very beginning that was it was repeated, right? So that you start with an organism that's very worm-like with segments, and then once those segments of the body start to specialize and form different functions of the body, and you get Hox genes involved, and all the legs segments start specializing, and then the segments of the body that support those legs will specialize in order to support them, and suddenly you have specialized segments of the body, and the number of segments that are available to do whatever they were initially doing starts to slim down. The thing that happens with carcinization is basically all the segments, the original segments are gone. Just the segments of the body that made up the head remain, the cephalothorax, if you will. There's no the abdomen, which is the rear part of the organism that supports organs and waste management and reproduction. It all curls underneath in development and fuses with the cephalothorax as well. So basically, everything is fusing to the head. The head is becoming they're essentially becoming a walking head. Minimizes the amount of resources they need to take in, but it's a loss of segments, not the lobster didn't gain new segments. So the lobster would be ancestral or more basal, I guess, of the forms. Is that the better way to look at it?
Okay. So, have you ever had to debunk creationists on this topic?
I was just talking about crabs today. You know that. You were there.
Yeah.
I actually didn't. I didn't even. I should have put 2 and 2 together. It's crazy that I didn't. I'm like talking about crabs this morning, and I seen you in the side chat. I didn't even say, "Hey, we're gonna continue." I don't. Did I give you a shout out when we were talking about crabs? We talked about the samurai crabs, and I actually got my channel or my stream pulled down for for streaming AIG content. It was kind of a shocker to me, but you know, it is what it is.
So you finally figured out who flagged you?
Yes, it was AIG. AIG did not like me telling the truth about their crab videos. They were claiming that the evolutionary argument was that animals evolve human faces on them, specifically these crabs that evolved human faces on them to scare away humans from eating them.
And then we threw them back, and they're the one that survived. I think I asked that question in the side chat. So would that be natural selection or artificial selection?
Yeah, that's like it wouldn't even that it's
because
so it'd be natural selection, right?
Are causing them to breed faces because they're the ones that get like nope, we'll get the non-face ones. And the face.
Yeah. Well, the thing is the faces came first, right? The fact that humans could see a face in there is just pareidolia. That's the way that we evolved to pick out patterns and faces and colors and all this stuff. But one of the features is for us to look for human faces in everything that we see in nature. You know, we're always looking for faces so that we can find them in these crabs, and maybe it spooked people out because they look like angry faces or angry samurai mask is what why they call them the samurai crabs. But the idea that these faces evolved in order to in response to them throwing human heads into the water and the crabs deciding that it was a good idea to look like human heads to scare humans away is really weird. And I don't think that anybody was ever saying that or trying to make that argument. What do you think?
Yeah, I was just thinking. I was just, like I said before, I was just thinking that by doing that, we're letting them breed more and just have sex more, and so that's why there's more popping up.
Yeah, if you take a group of organisms from in an environment and say, I'm not going to eat these organisms, those organisms will thrive in that area because you won't eat them, so they're going to thrive. You're a predator, no predatory pressure, they thrive. That's not even speculative.
it's the same. It's the same with fish. Everyone catch the big fish, not the little fish. All of a sudden, there's no bigger fish left, and so the fish, only the smaller fish are breeding, and there's no big fish to eat.
I mean, that's what happened to the whaling industry, right? The whales that we have today aren't even. I mean, they're maybe 80% as big as they were 100 years ago before industrialized whaling kind of it basically wiped out all of them, all the large ones, except for like marginal populations that are just starting to come back. But the ones that remained are not the big giants of the past. They're not the
and
ones.
I think the same's happening to elephant tusks too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, elephants are the ones that are reproducing have smaller and smaller tusks, and now they don't even have tusk in some populations. So because it's a better survival trait to be tuskless in the current environment.
Yep.
In the current biome.
Natural selection is now going against our human predators.
Yeah, and so it's not unfounded to say that because the resemblance of the crab to the samurai mask helped prevent the species from being hunted or being preyed upon by humans, specifically if you want to use ecological terms. But that's not to say that they became the samurai mask look. They developed that look to deter human predators, which that'd be like Lamarckian evolution, right? That'd be like saying, hey, it turns out that looking like a samurai mask was a benefit, and now I'm going to pass it on to my kids because it was good. That's not how it works. It's just like what you said, the ones that don't get killed off because superstition, that's still going to affect what genes are passed down and what populations thrive because of the superstition.
Now, you mentioned this happened. Carsonization happened 5 times, at least in this family tree. Do you know which ones they are?
Yeah, I think I got it. Got the list of carcinization pulled up right here. It's just from Wikipedia, but it's got a short list of the groups. So carcinization, you have within a decapoda, you have the king crabs, which are popular dinner items. You have the porcelain crabs or the squat lobster. I guess these aren't squat lobsters. They're related to squat lobsters, right? And then you have your hairy stone crabs, hermit crabs, including like the coconut crab that we talked about earlier. And then you got the group Brachyurna, which is the true crabs. So those are your groups that have gone through this process that are officially subject to carcinization. You can see the lineages branching off here in the groups that Vandalia has pulled up here, so you can kind of get an idea. Now, the processes that cause this are generally that this is a good foraging body type. Most of these organisms are going to be a mobile forager. That's not a hard fast rule, but that's what this body type favors. Not a lot of swimming up higher in the water column. These are going to be bottom dwellers. Terrestrial groups, of course, can become more specialized, and obviously there's other crab groups and groups that experience carcinization that are filling other niches as well, including in terrestrial biomes. All right. I wasn't finished reading this. Nope, not that. Where's my article at? There we go. Okay. Now it tells us a little bit about divergent evolution. It's and uses
so that's
all
like
the different
what
worms.
That's how like all 5 of them decide to go in that body shape plan. Even though they're nowhere near each other in the family tree.
Yeah, it's niche driven more so than individual genetics driven, right? So it tries to It weeds out the, you gotta, when you're mapping, is you gotta try to weed out the convergent from the analogous, right? Sorry, I got that backwards, from the homologous, right? You gotta weed the convergence where two groups had a common ancestor without the feature and developed it independently. And where do you draw that line? So the fact that we know that early arthropods, for instance, had an ability to generate different structures of its limbs, including pinchy parts, that even as far back as, like, we're talking early trilobites had little pinchy parts where they could help feed themselves. The genes to create this grabbing appendage. And is the fact that all arthropods have potential to develop that? Is it convergent, or is it
kind of like you can say the same thing for like dolphins and ichthyosaurs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because is the dolphin is that just convergent evolution? Because the dolphin did have an aquatic ancestor that at one point in time that was very fish-like. The
fish.
Our tiktaalik ancestors are they're still sauropterygian fish. They're still dolphins have taken a fish body plan, became a mammal, had paws and everything, then went back to fish body plan. So,
and the same could be said for seals, sea lions, manatees, walruses. They all
there's only certain ways to go back to.
But now they all have flippers instead of.
The funny thing about that with the mammals and the flippers specifically is that no matter how flipper they are, they all still have the same digits that we have, the same sauropterygian, lobe-finned fish digits that we inherited from the first ancestors that flopped out of the muddy depths, right?
Oh yeah, you do know mermaids are just the survivors of Noah's Ark flood.
Yeah, that's just the bottom half had to change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see a question that crabs are a type of, what's the question? Sea
animals, like from the sea.
Sea animals. Okay. It was covered up by the thing. I see you got it pulled up down here though. Sea animals, correct. So, I mean, there are crabs that live completely terrestrially. Well, as adults anyway. All crabs, I think, spawn and reproduce or need water to spawn and reproduce and lay their eggs in. Correct me if I'm wrong, if you can think of a species that doesn't. But I think most of them need seawater specifically. I think some of them can survive in brackish or even freshwater as adults. I think in their juvenile states, a lot of them are planktonic as juveniles, so they live in floating in the water column with plankton and such, right? But as adults, there are ones that are completely terrestrial. There's some where they're arboreal. There's coconut crabs are called coconut crabs because they climb up coconut trees, and that's their lifestyle. That's their natural lifestyle. But they're also called.
Can their claws break in the coconuts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got such strong crushing claws that they break open coconuts, which some of the other organisms on the islands that they live on completely depend on the coconut crabs to crack the shells on them so that they can get a snack too. But they're also cannibals, so there's that problem. When coconut crabs are babies,
can be good and bad sometimes.
Yeah, when coconut crabs are babies, they actually do like other hermit crabs. They live inside their little shells, and but when they get too big, that there's no shells will fit them anymore. That's when their abdomen kind of fuses up and hardens up, so they become more crab-like, and they don't no longer take a shell, and that's when they start really living the lifestyle of climbing trees. And they call them robber crabs for a reason, though. But it's because in addition to climbing up things to steal coconuts, they'll also climb up things to steal just about anything that they can get their claws on. So
Do they
they
have to?
are.
Do they have to? The coconut crabs still have to lay eggs in the water, or are they
They
kind
still
of
spawn
kind
at
of
sea.
oh, so they're not they haven't come kind of amniote in that side of the family
Nope,
tree?
nope, not these guys.
I guess that's only an us thing so far.
Yeah,
No conversion
yeah.
evolution
So
for
far,
amniotes.
well, other arthropods did become. I mean, I guess you wouldn't call them amniotes, but they did finally develop eggs that could be laid on land. I think they actually probably developed that, but way before we did, before tetrapods did. I think that there would have been
Damn,
insects that were
arthropods always
capable.
first on land, first in the air,
I'm
probably first in
thinking
the water too.
that beetles were probably able to lay. They probably needed moisture. I mean, even now, most organisms need some level of moisture to have their eggs thrive. Like you'll see species that lay their eggs in like a desert or something, and they won't hatch until that rainy season or things like that. There's actually some crustaceans that do that too. So, brine shrimp, as they call them. You'll see these big puddles in the middle of the desert, and you'll see all these little creatures scurrying around, and they're brine shrimp that had been dormant for months and months since the last rainy season. And then when it rains and these pools fill up, they hatch, they grow up, they mate, they lay more eggs, and then they die off as the puddle dries up again. It's really cool kind of life cycle that they have, and who knows how long that they can survive. I know that we've had some experiments done where they survive in this uh, dehydrated egg form for years, for even decades, and then are suddenly propagating when they get wet. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, I know that the samurai crab things are like quote accidental things, but
Mm-hmm.
has anyone ever tried to actually breeding crabs themselves, like we breed dogs breeds? Is
Breed
that possible?
crabs.
Yeah.
Well, there's crab farms that people mostly for food though, that people can breed them kind of like they do with tilapia, but it's definitely not there hasn't been anybody who's set up a good enough system that we could start specializing, that we could
Well,
start
get to it, Bree.
yeah, right. There are
You're
some,
the
I
author
think that.
on YouTube here.
So when it comes to arthropods and trying to do that stuff with them, I think fairy shrimp are probably the go-to that people think of, because with fairy shrimp, I have some fairy shrimp back here in this thing. Um, they like different. They come in different colors. They respond to different kind of tank lights and stuff like that. So I think if there's anything that we need to do that with, it's fairy shrimp. I think fairy shrimp we should replace night lights with fairy shrimp with little LEDs that make them glow.
All natural light bulbs.
Yep, natural light bulbs. All right. Let's see. I thought we'd have more to talk about with crabs, but carcinization is really just kind of self-explanatory. Now, it turns out crabs are a form so efficient, many crustaceans are getting in on the action. Yeah, like
So
this
this
is this is
basically
the
this
idea.
dirt. This is this head with legs.
Yeah, this is the ideal male body. You may not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Don't
So
even don't throw no
they
shade.
have like 6 legs and 2 hands.
Decapod. Yeah.
Oh, decapods. So like they have 10 stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
Now,
deca is. I think
now
deca
that I
means
look at
10.
false crabs, it makes sense. The ideal body is less than 50%, is at least 50% weapon. Yeah, because those huge, great arms is what you call this. It's another feature that pops up in developing arthropods. If there's not something in the environment that has great arms, it seems like evolution's more than happy to try to take advantage of that and add these huge weaponized forearms in order to
Yeah, claw size is like a form of sexual selection, I think. Hey, that guy's or that girl's got a big claw. I'll mate with him.
Yeah, because big claws are sexy. I don't even think humans disagree, but it seems that people will accept convergent evolution in species, but they draw the line at carcinization. Some cosmic horror for you, given the consistent nature of fluid dynamics and water temperature where carbon-based life can survive, the sheer probability of life to be rife in the universe, that there are probably several intelligent species of crab-like aliens out there. I am ready to meet them. I'm ready to actually bow to them. Let's welcome our arthropod-like ancestors. Or not ancestors, but overlords. Here's what I was talking. This is the life cycle.
Yeah, I used this as my thumbnail, but I had to cut half of it off.
Yeah, this so at least from right here, they take on the very crab-like appearance. But up here you can see
a little bit on that.
Let's see here. Yes. Open image. Well, let me do it. Let me see
if I can.
Is that helping?
Oh, hey. Yeah.
All right. This is the green drop-down thing moves away. All right, yeah. It's just the life cycle of a crab where it starts off. These are planktonic forms right here. As it gets more crab-like, as they start to drift more and more towards the bottom, they start to take on more mass and become heavier. This one, as you can see here, has still has its paddly legs there, but is also more adept for living and scrounging through the soil. But you can see also that here's the segmented body. This is what I was talking about, the ganglion segmented biology, and there's legs that are homeobox genes can express to allow legs to sprout out of this segment, or it can fuse, as we see with crabs. It starts to curl under here. The abdomen is half curled under itself here. Finally, it is as the rest of the body reduces, as the rest of the body grows, it reduces and atrophies to curl up underneath, fuse with the adult body, and voila! Now you have a completely carcinized true crab, my friends.
Nice.
Nice, right? I hope everybody's getting kind of the idea of what's going on, how it started and how it's going exactly. This is just the nature of the beast. Aliens arrive. There are two options. They are space crabs, or they are running from space crabs. I want to meet space crabs.
Space crabs. Is that like the octopus from space theory thing?
A space octopus, yeah. Oh, let's watch this. Here, do you want to see a boxing crab wearing its anemone boxing gloves?
Sure.
Yeah. I'll get your channel taken down too. They wear those on their.
So that's like what's it called? Not parasites. The cooperative one.
It's it is mutualism.
Yeah.
So the anemones protect the crab from because you can use them as predator deterrent to ward off threats, and then anemones get the protection of, hey, we're part of a crab, and we can collect and they can carry us to where the food is.
How? I guess that's for stinging, because that's for stinging, I guess, because really whatever could eat that crab can't really be eaten by that enemy unless it has a big stomach.
Yeah, right. So the fact that the anemones get to feast on whatever the crab manages to grab a hold of and kill helps, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But what's your favorite kind of crab?
Hmm. I guess the hermit crabs, because
Yeah, I
I
like hermit crabs with their protective shells.
I guess that they're like the mobile home people of the crab families. They go like, okay, time to get a new house, just start and move in.
I got let's see here. I want to share. Share that too. Look at this. This is since you said you liked hermit crabs, this is a coconut crab, which are essentially just giant hermit crabs. This one is grown big enough that it no longer needs a shell, but you can kind of see its crabby little tail folded underneath there. Do you see it right there?
Yeah.
It folds underneath. Just like where's the camera? Like that. Just fold it like it starts off like that, and as they go into the shell, and as they no longer need a shell, it curls up underneath, and yeah,
Right.
and that gives them their crabby appearance. And then this is our
crab.
This is our squat lobster. You can see they have more more prawn-like faces than real crabs do, or than more prawn-like faces than a hermit crab as well. But these ones tend to have a lot of seta on their arms. The Yeti crab falls into this group, but I like this one because it's zebra striped, so I picked it for the picture. And then I wanted to show you this too. This is a amblypygid becoming crab. Seems like one of its sensory arms is missing. Yeah, these are I was looking at different arachnids that they use in spec evolution to become carcinized. And then lastly, this is the pseudoscorpion that I was talking about, where it's like a scorpion without the tail. It's the same. It's very similar structure to its pedipalps and claws. And yeah, but you can still see that it's very much is still a segmented organism with all the features that you would expect from an arachnid. Now, there are no spiders with claws. I just want to get that out of the way there. But spider crabs can be considered a sort of convergent body plan to a crab, in the same way that their body is fused, that their abdomen is fused into one area, but obviously they're still segmented in the thorax and the cephalothorax. But amblypygids, like we were just looking at here, completely fused cephalothorax. The abdomen is fused, but it's still mobile. So it's in the evolutionary process of fusing. It's likely that the descendants won't have separate cephalothoraxes and thoraxes, if that are cephalothoraxes and thoraxes, cephalothoraxes and abdomens. But the other group of arachnids that also could be considered in this family would be or in this group that would be carcinized, would be like some of the more specialized harvestmen or empiliones. So another interesting group of creatures to look into. I didn't pull up a slide of them though, unfortunately. All right.
So
okay. Do you have any other questions about crab I could entertain?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, anybody in the audience has any questions? Put them in the chat right now. But here, like, so these are all. So is this all the crab family, or is only on the
Well, let's look at the
Brachiosaurus?
bottom here. So the very bottom, you see, we got Myrna, right? And then you got Anomura and Brachyurna. Now, Brachyurna is the true crab. So right at the start, you see the carapace flattening and widening for the Brachyurna. Very beginning, that purple, that pink dot at the base, at the root, nope, down at the root of Brachyurna. See the pink? That one right there. So at that point, they developed the carapace, which is flattened and widened. So the carapace, which is made up of the cephalothorax, or the cephalus and the thorax fused, the cephalus and the thorax fused ganglion. And then when you see the pink develop in these other groups is further down the line, or the purple develop in these other groups. Specifically among the Anomuras, it's more of a modern.
So these are
at
the
least the
imitation
purple
crabs
portion.
on the Amber side.
Yeah,
that
and some of them
decided to
don't
go
even
that
have
route.
some of them don't even have the flattening among their characteristics, right? But some of the other features, because all four of these features are basically what makes carcinization a thing. Reduced or lost uropods, pleon flattened and bent, sterline fuse into wide plate. So these are different characteristics that become present in different groups as they carcinize. And you could apply some of these features to different groups like amblypygids and the arachnids, and certain groups of sea spiders too, for that matter.
Yeah. This one, the bottom got all four at once.
Yeah, they were lucky. I think that's the king crabs down there, which king crabs are the most crab-like non-crabs, or the most be crabbed of the crabs that crabbed.
Like the furthest away from them, I kind of.
Yeah, they are uniquely divergent from. And there's true crabs, like look right there. So there's true crabs that don't completely develop too. That express neoteny, where their abdomen doesn't fuse. So it's not out of the question. Do crabs tend to move sideways? Yes, Dr. Tapioca Dr. Tapioca Weasel, they do move sideways. The true crabs do. Generally, that's how they want to run. Crabs do have an interesting design. I don't know. Saying the design would be, it implies that that there was intent in what they were doing. It was what worked. So design's kind of a weird way to describe it, but yeah, if you want to use that term hyperbolically, I don't mind. Panspermia, but with crabs. That is my kind of space story. Let's make that thing. I make that a real thing.
So are crabs at near the top or bottom of their food chains?
So crabs are mostly deuterovores or herbivores. So they generally are the bottom to mid rung of the food chain. They generally serve a purpose that's towards the bottom, but there are crabs that transcend that role and become more of a mesocarnivore. Coconut crabs, again, are a great example of that. In certain regions where having a rigid exoskeleton is beneficial, allows you to dominate, like the midnight zone of the ocean, crustaceans become the apex predator. So like the Japanese spider crabs that we were talking about, they are apex predators. They are on top of the food chain in their environment. But in most regions in modern times, crabs serve more of a bottom rung on that food chain or food web, if you will. And it depends on what stage of their development is too, because even the mighty coconut crab has planktonic developmental stages that it's not exactly going to thrive during. And even when it comes onto land, it's still hiding inside of a shell because of predators. So it's still a prey species up until it becomes this massive brute of a creature. Same, it's very, you can consider that very similar to the way that tortoises are too. You know, they're very vulnerable when they're small. When they get full grown, they're practically impenetrable. At least until to conventional weapons, right?
Yeah.
Or sea turtles are another example.
So do we know when the crabs came on the scene? Was it in the way in the past, or the dinosaur time, before dinosaurs, or more modern times?
So there's been crabby things in the seas since the Cambrian explosion, right? There's been things that kind of filled this niche or filled this role or had at least a couple of these characteristics that we're calling carcinization here. We've always had those as long as we've had hard bodies organisms. These guys have been around. There was a period though during the Cretaceous that was like they call it the Cretaceous crab revolution. Yeah, it refers to here it is, the diversification event of Brachyurna, also known as true crabs, that took place during the Cretaceous period. So nearly 80% of all modern groups of crabs just appeared during this crab revolution of the Cretaceous period. All these groups were just boom on the scene. So it's sort of a Cretaceous crab explosion when but there was no butter because there was no mammals that were producing enough milk for there to be a dairy industry at this time. So we had crabs with no butter for at least 65 million years.
Yeah, it wasn't until after the Cretaceous that mammals started kind of like the milk decided to make an explosion.
Yeah, a delicious explosion of crab, because I love eating crab. Love me some crab legs.
I don't think I've ever had true crab. I think I had the fake kind,
like synthetic crab meat. I don't know. It doesn't really compare though.
Unless
crab.
there's real crab and crab cakes. I doubt it though.
There should be.
Okay.
They should chop up real crab in there for you. It's a dick move if they don't. Like, why would they do that to you? You know. So my favorite crab, because you didn't ask, kind of hurt my feelings.
I thought you were just gonna tell me.
It's the Christmas crabs, the ones that migrate. I had those on this morning too. There'll be hundreds of thousands of them migrate across these islands, and it's so cool to see it because it's just like a big red wave moving across the land, and they block the traffic and everything for them. Let them do their spawning.
Yeah,
but
I think I might be wrong on this, but are they the ones that are what's it called? Invasive species, or is that another crab?
Invasive. Well, there are crabs that are invasive species, but those ones are not. No. And crabs are more likely to be victims of invasive species than invasive species themselves, because, like coconut crabs, for instance, again, I keep going back to this particular group, but they the way they spawn allows them to reproduce and colonize islands like to the far reaches of the ocean, right? So anywhere they can go, they're already there. Some use imitation and others use a blend in crab cakes. I like authentic crab cakes though. Like if you go to like Joe's Crab Shack or something, you're getting real crab cakes. If you go to Red Lobster, they're going to be real crab cakes. Yeah, I do. There's been a terrible drop in the number of crabs. Hold on, I wanted to mention that too while we were talking about this. Just a second. crabs disappearing in Alaska. Yeah, let's look at this real quick. We'll wrap up with this. That sounds like a good topic.
Okay.
Have a little bit of conservation at the end. Are you okay with that?
Oh, sure. Save nature is something I used to do back in the day. I should do it more
So
often in my
this is
old
more
age.
this is fairly recent. This is November 2022. So it's like 3-4 months ago. 90% drop in the crab population led officials in Alaska to cancel the official fishing season for both king crabs and snow crabs. The snow crab and king crab seasons are canceled this year in Alaska, officials say. An annual population survey is well below the safety threshold and up to 1 billion crabs short. This area has suffered climate change effects for decades with recent escalations. In October, news broke that scientists were estimating the disappearance of up to 1 billion wild crabs from the usual steady supply in the Bering Sea. This represents a 90% drop in crab populations, they say, as the news spread. As the news spread, officials in Alaska canceled the official fishing season for both king crabs and snow crabs. Science explains the world around. Will help you make sense of it all. What is this? Join the Pop Mac. Okay, I don't know what that is. If the population of crabs isn't sufficient each year, fishing boats will end up scraping too deeply into the entire group, reducing its viability in subsequent years. Instead of a sustainable fishing process, it turns into the giving tree, the story of the tree that give up its whole body to satisfy the needs of one human. The Bering Sea economics, Alaska's economy is inseparable from the environmental health of its ecosystem. Because of that, officials in the state must keep their fingers on the pulse of the mathematical problem, or sorry, mathematical model and population survey that shows the overall health of populations like red king crabs. Experts say there have surveyed they Experts say their surveys must have 8.4 million mature female crabs in order to approve the fishing season. Ben Daly, a researcher with the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, told Oregon Live that the mathematical model itself may need to be adjusted after the dramatic decline in population a few years ago. These closures are linked with Alaska in terms of governance, but they affect an economy that rolls down the entire western seaboard. Ships come from the continental United States for just this time of year and plan to make the bulk of their annual income in the waters off of Alaska. And that's not even counting what may happen from the Russian side or even the nearby Japan or Canada. The Bering Sea occupies a space between Alaska and easternmost Russia. It formed by a circumference of the Alaskan mainland, the Aleutian Islands, the Commander Islands, the Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia, and mainland Russia. The Bering Strait. It forms roughly enclosed area of an that is ovular in shape, and because of its positioning, the very center of the international waters between these two iconic and confrontational world powers. But it's not just an interesting for its political reasons. Yeah, I didn't realize it was going to go all into that. Sorry.
Yeah. It's very, very detailed.
Yeah. The Bering Sea is a huge area for commercial fishing because its special ecosystem creates an unusual geology and biology. The sea is technically just a portion of the Pacific Ocean, but it sits mostly in a shared continental shelf between the land masses of Alaska and East Russia, where the shelf drops down into deeper basins. The clashing of the water masses creates just the right mix to produce tons of living things that need an active swirling supply of oxygen and other nutrients. It's an octone, a place where two biomes meet and mix. Arguably, the most important of these organisms is the tiniest and most basic, the phytoplankton. These microorganisms play a crucial role because they turn simple energy from the sun into more complex compounds than other living things need.
Yeah.
By
So
do
so basically, are they like they overeat? So are they either been overfishing them or overfishing the big crabs and the only little baby crabs
well,
are
climate
left of it?
change is part of the problem too.
Oh,
That there's
okay.
this biome is kind of
Oh,
vanishing, and that this planktonic biome, what it serves in the food chain, is no longer there because of the climate change. And that's what it's going to get to here about the population drops.
oh, the crabs
It'll
are boiling, basically boiling in the water.
yeah. So you see that because the warmth doesn't allow for the reproduction of the plankton, and it kind of rolls down to the crab population. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right.
when plants die, everything else above them has to die too.
Right. So yeah, that's something that we're still dealing with today. I don't know what the next season is going to look like. Who knows what could become of these different species, the king crab, the
Yeah,
snow crabs.
I
They're
guess pretty soon
important.
it'll all be imitation crab and
Hmm.
other stuff. Just
So
there won't be any crab to eat.
right. So are you ready to become crab? I think it's time.
Yeah, sure. So how would that? How would us on the mammal primate side go in the carcinization?
Well, so that'll take us back to, let's look at that chart again. We had that little chart that showed us. Yeah, here we go. I'll pull that back up. And we'll just oh, that's not the chart I was looking for. Just a second here. Maybe you had it up. The one with all the different groups and stem. Yeah, that was you that had that. What am I
Okay.
looking for?
Uh,
Yeah. So let's look at the features for carcinization again, the ones they had pointed out with the dots, the pink and purple and green and blue dots. There we go. Yeah, that's the one. That's the ticket. Okay, so as far as humans go, which features do we have? Scroll down to just we just need to look at the key really to decide what we need to do. So flattened and widened. I think humans are getting wider. I don't know about flatter though. We generally tend to be taller these days than we were. So half of that, maybe half a point. So we're half a pink point. Sternites fused into widened plates. We don't even have sternites, so we can't do that yet. We need to grow.
Would that be an internal thing then?
It's actually external.
Skeletons on the inside.
Yeah, it's
Not the
actually
outside.
external. It's it's where it's where the thorax and the cephalothorax fuse together. That's what it's talking about here. But we don't have either of those. So, well, technically, it'd be like we'd have to lose your neck. Is basically what it's saying there. So to be analogous with carcinization, we'd have to lose our necks. That's true. Your face would have to come erupt directly from from between your shoulders. So that's something we'd have to do. And then pleon, flattened and bent. We don't have a pleon either. We also don't have the other tetrapods would have a tail that kind of can conform to this instruction, but we do not. So we can't.
We've already lost our
tail up underneath. Yeah, we can't fuse our tail up underneath our body. Lost of uropods. Yeah, we don't have uropods either. We actually don't have enough limbs to afford to lose any in our carcinization process. It would actually be better for us to gain some limbs.
Yeah, we get to be tetrapods, only 4, not 6 or 8 or 10 like these guys.
Yeah,
we only had
no decapods, no.
Only
wonder why we don't call arachnids octopods. Probably because of Octopuses, huh?
Yeah.
Well, so that's what it would take for us to become a crab. Mm-hmm. So I still have my neck. I like my neck. I think it's a good neck. I'm not planning on losing it anytime soon.
So any last minute questions in chat?
Regios? Questions? Sage?
Ohio, Dr.
Eddie?
TTwC, Eddie.
Do we really want questions from Dr. Tapioca Weasel, though? I want you to think about what you're asking before you say it out loud.
We're waiting. Anything coming up on your channel that you wanna advertise?
So we're doing. I'm got the scripting for part 2 of R and Ra's Arachnomorpha done. I'm fact checking and editing for him. So that'll be coming out soon on his channel. I should actually get a shout out this time. I told him, I said, you want me to do this? You better give me a shout out. I'm trying to get my channel over 1K. We are super close to 1K. So if anybody's watching this, that's my goal. We'll be back live from the Hive this Saturday or this next Saturday, just like I was today. Monday is going to be Creation Watch. Monday is going to be some Hive Science. Wednesday, Creation Watch, and Friday is Cryptic Corner, which I think is the audience favorite show. So Cryptic Corner on Friday nights at 8 p.m. Don't miss that. And I may or may not become crab. So, yeah.
Nice. For me, next week on the, I'm going to mirror Dapper's review of me leaving creationism on the exact 2-year anniversary. I can't move that perfectly. He interviewed me on February 18th last year.
Who did?
2 years ago, and it happened on the 2-year anniversary. So I'm gonna mirror it. So it's gonna be a rerun. But
who was the interview with?
Dapper.
Oh, Dapper. Okay, yeah, that's cool. It's awesome. I love Dapper. I was watching Dapper earlier today, talking about what Catholic.
Apparently, you're only 55 viewers away from your 1K goal.
Yeah,
I think
only 55 away.
All right, so even Chad hasn't described the Hive site yet. You click the name in the title. Please. And go there.
I need all the subs. Give me all of them.
And same here. Same here. Kevin, click subscribe to my channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget to subscribe to Vandalia. All my accounts are subscribed. So
yeah, and also, if you haven't seen it yet, go back to season 10 and watch me and Bre talk about what made us cry in media. It's a very, very sad episode.
I'll give a spoiler. Iron Giant made my list. And if you don't understand why, then you just don't get it. You don't get it. All right. Well, yeah, I'm gonna go have some dinner.
Yeah. You have a catchphrase you want to say?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Please remember to be kind and take care, and we'll see you next time.
As I always say, never stop learning and enjoy the randomness. We'll see you next week.